Morning. Am I audible to you guys? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have provided all the third unit notes in your Google Classroom. I hope you guys can see the notes. If anyone didn't check yet, you can check. It's in 8 Google Classroom, okay? Okay, today we will start from naive base, but before that, I want to just tell about a simple thing about EM algorithm. EM algorithm means expectation and maximization. So EM algorithm is mainly an algorithm or approach to estimate the maximum likelihood. Okay, it's mainly used for your hidden Markov model or any probabilistic algorithms. Okay, so most of the times, maximum likelihood estimation is a challenging task. So with the help of EM algorithm, people just try to solve the uh, or find a probabilistic maximum likelihood problem. So general technique for finding maximum likelihood estimation is like it has a latent variable models in expectation of maximization algorithm. So here basically there is two parts. Okay, it's a cycle, and in cycle it has basically two steps. I'm just giving you the basics for exams. E steps and M steps. Okay, that's why name is EM. So what happens in E step is just estimate the missing variables. Missing variables in the data set. Okay, and what M step does, it basically maximize the parameters. Of the model. in the presence of the data.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, can you just refresh the screen because it freeze?
you cannot see the screen.
No, ma'am, it freeze.
Okay, wait. Can you see it now? Is it okay now? I hope you guys can see and it's not freezing.
Yes, yes, ma'am. It's fine.
So EM algorithm or expectation maximization algorithm is an iterative process that cycles between two modes. One is the E, that is the first mode that attempts to estimate the missing variables. Missing variables, or you can also say latent variables. Okay, it's tried to estimate the missing or latent variables, and this is the E step. The second mode attempts to optimize the parameters of the model to best explain the data. So it's the maximizing of the parameters in presence of the data so that it can particularly fit. So EM algorithm is most widely used in unsupervised learning problems like clustering, density estimation, and these are also used in some mixture models like Gaussian mixture model and all. So I will not go into the detail. Just remember it's an expectation maximization algorithm that basically maximize. First, it try to estimate the missing variables. Then second step is the maximization, that is maximize the parameters or optimizing. Okay. After this concept, it's fine. So next I want to go for the naive Bayes. I guess you guys already know this part. Anyone? Naive Bayes classifier, what is this? Anyone? Sorry. Any idea? Naive Bayes is supervised or unsupervised? Naive Bayes is your probabilistic supervised classifier. Okay. So it predicts something on the basis of probability, and it basically use your Bayes theorem. Okay, and Naive Bayes classifier was first used for text classification, but apart from test classification. It is also used in other cases like spam filtration, then sentiment analysis, classification of articles and all. So in naive Bayes, you can see there are two terms. Why is it called naive? Anyone? Why is it called naive? Naive part. Okay, it is called naive because it assumes that the occurrence of certain features is like independent of the occurrence of other features. For example, like you can identify any food with the help of the features like color, shape, and taste. Okay, so these features are kind of individual contributor to identify a particular food, and they don't depend on each other. Like if you take color and shape, color is not going to means uh, affect the shape features. All of these are independent features, and occurrence of one type of feature is not going to affect identification process. So it is called naive because it assumes that occurrence of certain feature is independent of the occurrence of other feature. Okay. Okay, so you can just take any example, even the cat and cow or cat and dog. There are some features like color, shape, and if you are going for vegetables and foods, there might be taste. So all these features just individually contribute to identify a particular thing. Okay, so now Bayes is just simple because it just uses Bayes theorem. Okay, so what was Bayes theorem? Is the same equation. Probability of A given B is equal to probability of B given A, probability of A, then probability of B. Okay, so this is your posterior, this is your likelihood, this was your prior, and this one is your marginal. Okay, so if you want to see example, I go for the example. Okay, let's just see. Have you done any problem with naive Bayes earlier? In last semester?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? If yes, then I will not go for it again. Okay. So, okay, then for naive Bayes, that is it. Can you tell me what can be the advantage of naive Bayes classifier? Advantage? You said yes, then you have to tell me the advantage.
Ma'am, it can handle both discrete and continuous value.
Okay. Is it used for what type of classification? Is it for binary or multi? For which one?
Our NIBAS was taught on the basis of association rule. For the formulation of association rule mining problem. There we have got the NIBAS rules.
Okay. So it is for binary or multi?
I guess it's multi because there is no binary approach in association rule.
Okay. So namespace you can use for both binary and multi. Not only multi, you can use for it binary classification as well. Okay. Both is applicable. But for multi-class prediction, it works better than other algorithms. Okay. One of the disadvantages is that since all the features it assumes that are independent or unrelated, so it cannot see the relationship between features. Okay, because it just assumes that all features are independent of other. But in some cases, it's not the case. Therefore, it fails to learn the relationship between features. So main application we use like credit scoring, then sentiment analysis, text classification and all. Okay. Then there are three types of naive-Bayes classifier actually. One is Gaussian. I will not go into the detail. So here it takes basically continuous. The one you say it can work with the continuous. So the Gaussian assumes that the features follow a normal distribution. That means if predictors take continuous value instead of discrete, then the model assumes that these values are sampled from the Gaussian distribution. Okay. Second is the multinomial. Multinomial. It is when your data is multinomial distributed. Okay, so primary use of multinomial type of naive classifier is the document classification. Okay, so this classifier basically use the frequency of words to predict what type of article is this. Okay, third one is Bernoulli. So it works just similar to multinomial, but the predictor variables are independent Boolean variables here. Okay, so if a particular word is present or not in the document, it can just see that thing. Okay, so here predictor variables are independent Boolean variables in case of Bernoulli. Okay, next let's go for Kenan. I won't go for the maths then. So I guess everyone use KNN. So just tell me what is KNN. Everyone use KNN for your projects last semester, and also in this semester. So what is KNN algorithm?
Uh, KNN algorithm assumes the similarity between new class and available class.
Yes. So it basically finds the similarity between your data points. If there might be available data, then whenever you just put a new data, it just see the similarity. So what is K here? So let's say nearest
Number
neighbor.
of cluster.
Number of
Cluster.
number of neighbors.
Cluster. Yeah.
It's not K means clustering, it's KNN. So here, if you have two sets, and here you got a new data, you have two, suppose category B and get A. Okay, so this is your new data. So how you are going to find whether the new data is belong to which class?
Using
First,
K parameter, no?
huh?
Using the parameter
Parameter what?
K value.
K value. Okay. Okay. So you first find the K value. What is K? You said find K. What is K? What is that? I couldn't hear. Number of. Can you just write down here in the chat? Your voice is like breaking or too much noise. Cannot hear. What is K? K is the number given for the similarity classes. What is that number? Yes, number of nearest neighbor. K is the number of neighbors, not nearest yet. Okay, K is the number of neighbors first. Okay, then you will calculate which are the nearest with the help of Euclidean distance. After that, only see. Okay, first you just see, take just K values. Okay, it is nearest, but it's not like you are directly calculating the distance first. So you just calculate the K number of neighbors. So how you decide on K? How you decide on K? What K value to choose? How do you decide it? Anyone? How to decide K value? It will define. Who will define?
There are various techniques through which you can get the K. Some of them are WCSS.
Okay. Okay, but in generally, there is no particular way to determine the best k value. You always have to try some values for k, then you have to just find the best out of them. Okay, there's nothing like specific way of determining. You can use different techniques, but most of the times these are experimental. You just check from maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 like this. Then whichever value is better, then you take that one. Okay, it's not like, but in general, the most preferred value of k equal to 5. Okay, most preferred value is k equal to 5. You can take low values like k equal to 1 or 2, but it can be noisy. Okay, and lead to the effect of outliers. Maybe there are some outliers, so it can be noisy if you take very low value of k. But again, if you take very large value of k, it may find some difficulties. Okay, so these are kind of parameters or hyperparameters you set by experiments. You cannot say only this one is good, this one is good. You have to experiment with it. Okay, most preferred value for k is 5, but not necessarily all the time. Maybe for your data set, you have to take k equal to 10, 20 like this. So there is no specific value, specific way. Okay. So after selecting the k, then what you do, you find the Euclidean distance between your new data and all the k neighbors. Maybe you take this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just take random k values, then you find a Euclidean distance. Okay, so Euclidean distance, you know, is just the distance between 2 points, right? And I guess all of you just know the equation for Euclidean distance also. If it is x and suppose x1, x2, then of course it will be somewhere in the y-axis, right? You can represent value with x1, y1 and x2, y2. So your Euclidean distance will be x2 minus x1 square plus y2 minus y1 square. That's the basic equation, Euclidean distance, to find distance between any 2 points. Okay, suppose this is the point A, this is the point B. This is the coordinates for A and coordinates for B. So you find the distance like this, Euclidean distance. So by calculating the Euclidean distance, you get the nearest neighbors. Now, from here, maybe for 3 categories, the means for category 3, the distance is nearest to the new data. And here from class B, there are only 2. Okay, so you will decide that the algorithm will decide that new data will belong to category A. Okay, so after calculating the Euclidean distance, the algorithm will see that the 3 nearest neighbors belong to category A. Okay, if it belongs to category B, then it will decide it is new class of new data is B. Okay. In some cases, like in now you can hypertune your parameters. So basic way means in general way, uh, it finds the Euclidean distance. Okay, but in some cases you try another distance algorithm, Mahana, Bliss, and step, and there are so many distance algorithms. Okay, but the basic way is just to find the Euclidean distance. Okay, that's the normal process. So advantage of KNN is what? It's simple, very simple to implement, and it is robust to the noisy training. Okay. Disadvantage is that it is a bit complex to determine the value of K. You have to like experiment it, then you select the best K for your data set. Okay. Computation cost is high here because calculating the distance between the data points for all training samples. Okay, first you just select randomly some K neighbors, then it finds the distance, then based on the distance, it decides the class, right? So calculating the distance between data points for all training data, if you take too much, then it is a bit complicated. Okay. Okay, so next let's see support vector machine. Anyone? Anyone? Just the concept theory? Support vector machine is another type of your supervised. Support vector machine is another very popular supervised learning algorithm, and it is used for both regression and the classification. So main goal of your SVM algorithm is to create the best line or decision boundary that can just segregate n-dimensional space into classes. Okay, so here in case of support vector machine or in most of the classifier, we use the concept of linearly separable. So anyone can say what is linearly separable? Like in this case also, KNN, linearly separable means you can just divide data points into straight two halves. Okay. Okay. So this is linearly separate. Means if you can divide two classes, or maybe there can be more classes, divide like with a distinct length, then you can see it's linearly separable. When it is not linearly separable, maybe data are mixed. Okay, then these are not linearly separable. You cannot just draw a straight line between two classes. Okay, so for SVM also, it mainly used for linearly separable, but the advantage of SVM is that it can also useful for the data those are not linearly separable. That means non-linearly separable. Okay, like in other classifiers also in KNN also, it can use for both, but for the SVM, the main concept of linearly separable things comes. Okay, so SVM chooses some points, some data points that will help to create the hyperplane. Hyperplane means like this line. Okay, so these extreme points are called the support vector. Okay, so for example, this is one class and these are one class. So it tries to find a hyperplane. This is your hyperplane. So it will also draw a margin, okay, that will separate the two classes. Okay, the main function is to maximize the margin. Okay, and all the data points that lies in that maximized margin are called your support vector. Suppose this point is in the margin, and here from here this is the point which are closest to the hyperplane. So these are your support vectors. So this is a support vector, and this is another support vector. Okay, so there can be multiple lines or decision boundaries to segregate the classes in dimensional space, but we need to find out the best decision boundary. Okay, so based on that optimized decision boundary, it just helps to classify the data points. The best boundary is known as the hyperplane. Okay, for like this one. This is one type. You can also draw it like this. You can also draw it like this. You can also draw it like this. Okay, that means there can be so many boundaries or lines you can draw between two categories. Okay, so among all these boundaries, you have to find out which one is the optimal line. Okay, so the optimized line is the hyperplane. Correct. If there are two categories, you can just draw a line anything. As long as it is separating the classes into two halves, then it's fine. So there can be multiple decision lines or boundaries to segregate the classes. But SVM finds the best boundary. And dimensions of the hyperplane will depend on the features present in the dataset. So if there are two features, then hyperplane will be a straight line. Okay, and if there are three features, then hyperplane will be like two-dimensional plane. Okay, so this support vector, maybe I'm saying like only two features are there. So we always create a hyperplane that has a maximum margin. That means the maximum distance between the data points. Okay, so data points are vectors that are closest to the hyperplane and which affect the position of the hyperplane are your support vector. Why it is called support vector? Because it supports the hyperplane. So just for that, the name is support vector. Okay, so this is easy to understand when your data is linearly separable, or you can say it's a linear SVM. Okay. But as I said, there can be nonlinear data. So for the nonlinear data, what it does, maybe it just scattered everyone. So for nonlinear data, it just put all the data or into a higher dimensional space. Suppose this is just 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, it just uh, explode or put all the data into a n-dimensional, higher dimensional space. Okay, then in the higher dimensional, it's more easier to find the particular distance. Okay, so just think, these are the points. Okay, in 2D it's difficult to understand how to create a decision boundary or line between these two categories. Okay, in 2D space it's difficult to understand. Even it is in 3-dimensional space, it's a bit difficult. Okay, so what it does, just think that it just throws all the things, all the categories into the space like it's floating. Then there you can see, we can particularly see the distance, means boundary. Maybe you, after throwing this or exploring this or putting this into the higher dimensional, you might see it is somewhere something like this. Okay, data points are like this. Okay, then you can create a boundary like this. It's a cyclic boundary, but it is still a boundary. Okay, in case of linearly separable, this is just a normal plane, normal line. But when non-linear data are classified, then it just put it into the higher dimensional space. Then it can define the boundary. It can be a circular boundary or it can be anything. Okay, so this circular boundary will be the best hyperplane. Okay, so you can see that support vector machine is useful for both linearly separable data and non-linearly separable data. So from the 2D space, it just convert into a 3D space. Okay, and then in the 3D space, it decides the boundary for the non-linear one. So I hope the concept is clear to you guys. What is support vector? What is hyperplane? So it's going to end. Stop sharing and just switch on your videos. So your exam is from tomorrow. So portion will be third unit only, all about knowledge representation, populational logic, first order logic, third unit. Okay. So next week I'll take a few more classes. Your last class is actually 7, but I'll take a bit more, maybe whole uh, week I'll take the class. 7 means it's just Monday. That means already over. Tomorrow is your exam. Okay. Then since this part is already familiar to you guys, so it will be easier to understand. Okay, thank you all.
Good night.